Hi guys, today's look is inspired by Billy from Hocus Pocus, and I am super excited because this one has been on my list for such a long time. And this video is again sponsored by Spirit Halloween, so huge thank you to them for providing the costume as well and all the spirit makeup you'll see used for this look. If you missed the previous video where I compared and demoed Spirit's Cream and Grease makeup products, I'll have that linked in the cards and video description. And don't forget to check out all the other info, plus a coupon for you guys in the description as well. But without further ado, I hope you enjoy, and let's get into this Billy look. To start, I've mixed the white, green, plus a little of the brown and black Spirit Halloween grease makeups to create this very muted, kind of dead gray green. I also decided to scrape a bit of a golden yellow eyeshadow into the mix to warm it up just slightly, and this is the final color I ended up with. I've already blocked my brows, and I'm going right in with this green mix, applying it to the entire face using a dense foundation brush, blending onto the lips, the ears, down the neck as far as I need to about where the costume is going to hit, and back into the hairline, building it up to create a nice even layer all over. I'm then using the white grease makeup to highlight the face over the brows, nose, tops of the cheekbones, chin / around the mouth, down the center of the neck, and along the jawline, just using the same brush used for the base color. To set, I'm using a translucent powder that has a bit of color to it, using a powder puff to gently but generously press it into the makeup. I had planned on using the Spirit Halloween setting powder, which is a totally colorless powder, but decided I wanted to add just a tinge more warmth and brightness to my base. It's very important to set the grease makeup so it becomes more transfer, crease, and smudge resistant, and the powder helps mattify the product as well. Since I didn't end up covering the eyelids, I'm applying an eyeshadow primer to the lids and along the lower lash line, just using my finger to blend it in. Then I'm going in with a fairly dark muted green eyeshadow, applying this to the lids and along the lower lash line to darken the eye area. I'm blending it up toward the inner part of the brow a bit, but I do want to keep the shape pretty flat along the top to help create a lack of expression in the brows. I'm switching to a clean buffing brush to blend out the edges, then taking a yellowy orange shade around the edges to warm them up, as well as define the inner shape and start contouring the nose. I decided to darken the eye area even more with a black eyeshadow, using a flat brush to apply and a fluffy brush to blend out. Then again, warming up some of the edges a bit with a warm brown shadow. I'm then contouring with a very cool toned gray-brown eyeshadow, applying lightly at first to map out the shapes along the cheekbones, then curving up towards the sides of the nose and down toward the corners of the mouth. I'm creating a slightly exaggerated, defined contour up on the temples and forehead as well. I'm taking it under the chin and jawline, then along the bottom edge of the green that's on my neck. Then going over those same areas with a little of the warm brown eyeshadow. You can see here I'm blending this up, kind of connecting the cheek contour with the nose contour and also blending down from there, sinking those areas in. With a much smaller brush in the black eyeshadow, I'm shading down from the nostrils to elongate them a bit, then curving around where the inner part of the brow would be to create a furrowed look. I'm applying this to the center of the lips just to darken, and I'm kind of puckering my lips and shading out a bit further so the eyeshadow doesn't get into all the little wrinkles. This just adds a little bit of texture and interest. Using the same shade I contoured with, I'm shading in some under eye bags as well, using my own bone structure as a guide, building it up the darkest near the inner corners and edges. I'm then contouring the nose to define the shape, and here I'm using my Billy reference photos as a guide, making my nose look slightly wider and straight, then shading out so the bottom looks more triangular. I'm very softly blending the nose contour up into the eye area as well. I decided to shade a bit on the ears as well, just to add some dimension, a little something so they weren't just flat green. Now I'm using a smaller liner brush in the same contour shade to start creating all the little wrinkles and details, first adding a little dip in shading between and around the nostrils, then defining the furrow of the brow. The detailing on the cheeks is a little harder for me to explain everything I'm doing, so I'll mostly just show you, but I'm using a few reference photos along with a face chart I sketched out, and basically I'm both adding divots / shadows and wrinkles, and deepening and defining the basic contours I created earlier, leaving the cheekbone area between the contours and eye bags pretty clear so that it's more highlighted and pops forward. I'm adding quite a few subtle wrinkles around the eyes as well. You want the largest and darkest parts of the shadows at the base contour thinning out as you move down. You also want to curve these shadows in toward the mouth and nose at the top so this area appears more sucked in, if that makes sense, which I definitely could have done more of. I kind of created them more like straight diagonals, which didn't give quite the effect I wanted, but it still looks pretty cool. My best advice for this is to use one or several reference photos and start small so you can kind of see and decide the placement you like. You also don't need to create as many details as I did. You can do less, more, whatever you're feeling and whatever you think looks good. You've been seeing my eyes shift to the side quite a lot during this look, and that's because my design and reference photos are over there, just if you were wondering. I'm making sure to really darken the base / tops of these areas so we have the deepest parts of the shadows there where we want to be most sunken in along that cheek contour. Here I'm adding dots for the holes for the string sewn across the mouth, again using a photo for reference, and you can see me mapping it out in my head as I go, and once they're on I'm buffing over with a clean brush so they're a bit softer. On the chin, I'm curving the lines down and out from the lower lip, some from the holes, and then swinging them back up to meet the lines that are coming down on the cheeks. I ended up filling in most of the free space just because I liked how it looked that way, but again, you don't have to do this much. If you don't want to, you can just kind of stop whenever. You can see here I am lightly connecting some of these wrinkles across the cheekbone area to the eye bag area. You just want to make sure they're slightly curved and not perfectly straight so the cheekbone still kind of pops forward. And then I felt like the back of that cheek contour needed to be darkened, so I'm going in with a little of the black eyeshadow to deepen those areas, blending back onto the ears and up onto the temples. I decided to contour around the forehead a bit as well, kind of messily blending that down onto the forehead. So here we are with one side of the detailing done, and now I'm also adding in some forehead wrinkles, raising my eyebrows to help see where they would naturally be, and just adding in a few more wherever I feel like needs them. I'm taking a few out onto the temple areas and blending into the contours, mainly creating the darkest shadows along there and at the center of the forehead. Once I have those down, I'm gently dusting over with a clean fluffy brush to blend them out a little bit. I forgot to contour down onto the neck, so I'm doing that now as well. Then I'm doing the same thing on the other side of the face, and again, don't worry about creating all these details to be symmetrical. The only things that should be fairly similar are the general contours. I then darken those basic contours lightly with the black, blending over the details a bit, and then I also decided to add in a few more wrinkle details to the area on the jawline that I left blank, and again just slightly blending over top with that contour brush. To finish off the eyes and really darken them, I'm using the Spirit Halloween black gel eyeliner pencil to line the lower waterline, setting that in place with the black eyeshadow, then tightlining the eyes, taking the liner along the top lash line as well, making sure everything is super blacked out, and I'm just using my finger to blend that into the eyeshadow. Now I'm creating more wrinkle details on the neck, again using the same contour shade and liner brush. I'm following some of the lines down from the cheeks and then really curving these wrinkles down toward the center of the neck rather than taking them straight across, so the skin appears more saggy. As before, feel free to add as many or as few wrinkles as you see fit. I'm making some thicker and others more subtle, as well as creating deeper, larger shadows in some areas. I'm kind of just doing what I think looks good and referencing my photos as well, again filling in a lot of the blank space. You'll also notice that the curves of the wrinkles and shadows all follow close to the same path within each section. For example, all of the cheek shadows are flowing down in the same direction, and then same for the chin, forehead, and so on. Then to define some of the details even more, as well as darken, I'm using the Spirit Halloween black double eyeliner, which is a liquid felt tip liner that has a thicker and thinner end. This is kind of optional. You could just go in and deepen some of the shadows with a black eyeshadow. I was torn on how much to actually detail with a liner because I wanted to line everything, but the sharpness kind of takes away from the realism for me. So it's up to you what you'd want to do here. I mainly ended up doing the details on the cheeks, along the nose and nostrils, holes around the mouth, very lightly around the eyes, and a few of the forehead and neck wrinkles. Also, I do want to note here that I did switch to a different liquid liner partway through because I had actually done a practice run of this look, but I was using the Spirit Halloween liner where I detailed basically everything, which worked really well, but by the time I got around to doing this look again, it had unfortunately dried up quite a bit, so I couldn't get the same definition. Just wanted to let you guys know that in case you're like, you're not actually using that eyeliner. If I need to blend out at all, I'm just using my finger to kind of swipe it to fade it out before it dries. Then I'm using a small fluffy-ish eyeshadow brush at times as well that has a tiny bit of black eyeshadow on it. I decided to quickly add a few little lines and shadows to the ears as well. Then once I'm done with all the detailing, I'm deepening the cheek contours and temples with the black eyeshadow, and I switched to a smaller blending brush to help concentrate those shadows more. Then, like I did around the eyes, I'm lightly stippling that yellow-orange eyeshadow along some of the contours and wrinkles, just kind of randomly to add some more warmth throughout. I'm then using a white eyeshadow on a detail brush to highlight between a lot but not all of the wrinkles and any other areas you want to come forward, like the cheekbones, nose, and brow bone. I'm using a clean fluffy brush to brush away any excess eyeshadow / blend very lightly to soften the highlights if needed. You could also use a white body paint or liquid liner if you wanted to make these highlights more intense. I'm using black embroidery floss for the sewn mouth, holding it up to the holes and cutting it to the correct length. Then I'm using a cotton bud to apply a little bit of Pros-Aide to the holes, but you could also use eyelash adhesive, and while that dries and gets tacky, I'm darkening the center of the lips more with the black eyeshadow. Once the adhesive is ready, I'm simply pressing the ends of the floss down to their designated holes, and then after they're all stuck down, I'm very carefully cutting through the center with some small scissors so my mouth would be free. Next, I'm going in with black tooth enamel, and you want to make sure your teeth are as dry as possible before and when you're applying this. And I'm applying this in thin coats as far back on my teeth as I can. You also want to let the tooth enamel dry before adding another coat and closing your mouth. I'm then dotting the adhesive onto the lips as well to stick the ends of the floss in place, using my fingers and the cotton bud to gently press over to help them stick down. And then I wanted to really black my mouth out as much as I possibly could, so I'm using a black mouth effects, which will temporarily make my mouth look just deliciously black. Then I took my hair down, shaded a bit back into my part line just to darken it. Then the makeup is done, and I'm setting everything in place with a setting spray. The Billy costume from Spirit Halloween, I believe, does come with a wig, but I decided to just go with my natural hair for this one. And not that you can really see, but trust me, you weren't really missing much. I just tried to tease the heck out of my hair, added some hairspray, pulled it back into a low ponytail, and teased it some more, and then the look was complete. I made the tombstone using a sheet of insulation foam, a sander, Dremel, and a stone textured spray paint, along with a black eyeshadow for shading. There are a ton of videos out there on how to make these, but if you are really interested to see how I made this one, let me know and I could possibly film one for you guys. Huge thank you again to Spirit Halloween for sponsoring this video and partnering with me to create this look for you guys. And don't forget to check out all the information in the description box and get your 20% off coupon to use in your local Spirit stores. Not only do they have costumes and makeup, they have a lot of cool new decorations this year that I am dying to get my hands on, like especially all that Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. I just want it all. But that's everything for now. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.